Well, so hello everybody. My name is Luis Enrique, and this is Quién Soy podcast. This is an interesting way. This is an interesting form to connect with this episode. And here with me is Anthony, virtually. He is now in Puebla, and we are going to start to talk what about this episode. Welcome. So now, talking with Anthony. Hello, Anthony. How are you?
I'm doing very well.
Nice to hear it.
Here in Puebla on a nice sunny day.
Great.
Yeah, I think it's December the 4th today, is it?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. How are you? How do you feel these days? How do you feel exactly now? Thank you so much for accepting the invitation to be a guest in this podcast. For me, it's truly important to share this podcast with people that represent something important in my life. And as we know recently, and it was in a specific way to having contact with you, it's really interesting because in a quickly time you are a nice and important person to me. So that's why I decided to invite you, because it's important for me, your existence basically, because you share me a lot, and I learn a lot about these days that we meet us. And thank you so much. You're welcome. And we are going to start to talk about what is the title, what is the vivencia in Spanish, la vivencia for this episode. So, hello Anthony, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for inviting me to be your guest today, Luis. Looking forward to this conversation. We're going to talk about sports, I guess, and consciousness and life and all of those things. So, you wanted me to do a little introduction.
Please.
Well,
yes.
I'm an ex-professional athlete, solely in bicycle racing competition, and I did that for many years internationally and all around the world in North America and in Europe, and I still love to ride my bike. I don't do competition anymore, but I do enjoy coaching and training people in cycling to teach them all the different things that I've learned over the many years of racing bicycles. So, yeah.
And you are now here in Mexico.
Yes, I'm in Mexico. I'm doing a bicycle trip, not solely by bicycle. I'm doing what I call mini tours, or it's interesting because it seems to be that since I arrived in late September, I did a trip in October for 8 days, and I just did a trip in November for 11 days, I think it was. And now here we are in December, and I'm doing another trip for about a week. So not too much, just enough to have fun and to discover Mexico and discover the people and the culture. Yes.
Great, Anthony. And it was really nice to connect where we meet us. And for me specifically is, and as I was telling you, just I'm sharing something like of context about to meet us, about our relationship, recently relationship, where we connect. And for me, as we were talking, this is like I am in a interesting process to connecting with myself, this part of the process is to connect and observe, to see basically different aspects in my life, and connect with you specifically for this episode regarding to sports, where with the title of the episode is sports no more than a performance. Movement and connection is part of how I connect with this person that for many years they're a professional as an athlete, and it's great to connect in my side as not an athlete, not as a professional, how I'll develop the sports in my life, how interact with me, and not only as something that I decide to do to look nice in the gym, or to have a big bag and big arms, swimming, or all this like specific performance way. Is more related about how my body feels the exercise, how I connect mentally with this time where I decide to move, when I decide to connect with my body, with my respiration, with my breath, with my mind, with my energy, you know. So part of the intention of this episode is to know how works in the both side for you. How do you connect with the sport in your life? How when they start, how across the time it was changing or better transforming in you, and how do you live the sport? Do you live it as a performance, as this athletic professional person, or you embrace the sports in another way, in another level, or in another kind of perspective that you can live it? And also considering, in my perspective, that you are crossing the world, knowing countries, people, places, traditions, cultures, and I think so, knowing more about you. But how is all this trip regarding with Anthony across the time and in this moment, in the present? How do you live, Anthony? If you can share us, if you can share me.
Where do you want me to start?
I think so. It will be better where you start. How the connection with sports in your life?
Okay. Well, yeah, I remember that when I was 9 years old, I wanted to join my small town cycling club, and my father he consulted someone who was in the club who happened to live on our street, and he told my father that I should wait. Yeah, that I should wait until I was 11 years old, and that's what happened. So I waited until I was 11 years old, and then I joined the cycling club, and a funny story is that even before then, that, you know, most children, they learn to ride bicycles when they're very young, sometimes even 4 or 5 years old, or even earlier. You can look around today and see these bicycles that are sort of like a tiny little bicycle, but they just have a seat and there's no pedals, and the children just scoot along. So we didn't have, because I lived right next to my school, all I had to do was to jump the fence to go to school. I never learned to ride a bicycle. I didn't learn to ride a bicycle until I was 7 years old.
Okay.
And it's always very exciting when you get a bicycle for Christmas, you know.
Yeah.
And the funny story about this is that after I received that bicycle for Christmas, that I learned to ride it. But I was riding around the field, around the sports field in the school, which you could see from my house. You just had to look across the fence and there was the field. So once I learned to balance on the bicycle, I decided that I would ride around the field. And the problem is that I didn't know how to stop.
Okay.
I knew how to start, but I didn't know how to stop. So every time I came past our house, I yelled out, "Mom, help!" And I had to keep pedaling to go around. And every time I came around, I called out again, and she didn't hear me. And this went on for a long time. In fact, I went around that sports field 36 times.
Okay.
So finally she heard me,
Mm-hmm.
and she came across and she grabbed me so I could stop. The reason why I'm telling you that story is because I'm not sure if you're aware, but there are sort of moments. There are moments in people's lives. Everybody has these moments in their lives, and they're called fractals. They're also represented in art. If you see a mandala, for example, an artwork of a mandala, it has many repeating patterns within that mandala that you're looking at. And a lot of the Buddhist mandalas are beautiful, and you see these repeating patterns, and so those repeating patterns are called fractals.
Yes.
So that moment with me riding around the field 36 times was a fractal in my life. It was a fractal moment. So that fractal, as a repeating pattern, has continued on for my whole life so far. So that's just an interesting story about how I got started. And I didn't realize until many years later, until I learned about fractals, that I realized that this was a powerful moment. As a child, it was just something I needed help, I need to stop. But later I realized that this was a fractal moment. And everybody in their lives has fractal moments that define their lives. And sometimes they continue to repeat, and sometimes they change and move. But if you think very closely about your life, you'll discover that there's fractals. There's fractals in your past that are present in your future. Yeah. So bicycles has been my thing. I've been racing for many years and in competition, and fortunately I was pretty good from the very beginning. So that sort of made it easy for me to continue. But it's not an easy sport. It's not an easy way, and it's a beautiful sport because it's very rare that you win. It's very uncommon that you win. So every time you experience competition, a race, is an extremely humbling experience. So for anybody who gets into cycling, hopefully, if they get into competition, not everybody, I don't know, I can't speak for everybody, but I think that for me, it's just been a lifetime of humility, learning humility. And because you fail so many times, some people fail and they just, because they failed once or maybe they failed 10 times, they would just sort of discontinue the activity or the sport or the competition. But if you're open to learn, every time you start a race, and I've done thousands of races, thousands and thousands and thousands of races, 2,000 alone. So I've really learned a lot about myself through the act of competition. Yeah.
And how do you live this competition, Anthony, in a healthy way? To say in like you feel the pressure to win, or you really connect in your general context with the competition as just as a proof to learn. It was stressful for you. How do you? Because I connect with this part that you share. With some of many conversations that we have, where you share me that is at some moment a meditation where you are racing, right? Because you pass hours, some trips for 8 hours or more, maybe sometimes. So this, I think so that maybe in this context of the fractals, you can contact with yourself in a meditative way. Thank you so much. And as a different moments in your life that change something in you, that make you connect with yourself, and how as a fractal of in your life this is changing. How do you live it? In the resilience way, like with all the circumstances that you can live in a competition, or in another way in your freestyle, but with also you are connecting with different moments that you didn't predict, that you didn't want to happen, like for example your cell phone and some different things. How do you live all this learning across the time in the competition, but also in this moment, in this present? How do you interact with yourself at the end? How do you live it? It's stressful, you try to control them, or you are living and connecting with the life? How do you live it?
It's never been stressful, in a negative way. It's never been stressful. And I haven't been doing any competition for many years. So, when you're asking about competition, that's in the past. For me, I enjoyed the stress. It wasn't a negative experience.
Mm-hmm.
There's always a certain amount of stress.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But there's a tremendous amount of focus that you have to have. So that the focus that you are trained every time from when I was a young child until I was an adult racing professionally in Europe, all of those moments were come together to make me personally better at what I do, and mostly it's about just being very, very focused. Because when you're, for example, when you're traveling, when you're cycling, when you're racing in a group of 150 riders, and you're only centimeters away from each other, and you're negotiating the routes and the corners and the climbs and the descents and all of this, you have to stay completely focused. And so that training that I received on being focused has been incredible throughout my whole life. So it's gone into it's helped me focus and be present, being completely present and calm for many years, just because of the nature of the amount of focus and attention that you have to give for those 2 or 3 hours, or maybe 5 or 6 hours that you're racing. There are times during that time where you can relax a little bit, but there are other times where you have to be completely present. Completely focused. Yeah. So that, I mean, even without the competition, I think cycling as an activity is extremely beneficial, not only for the physical health benefits, but for the mental health benefits for people. I mean, if you know somebody who's depressed or is having a hard time in their life, encourage them to go for a bike ride. Or even if they don't have a bicycle, just getting out to move your body in some way moves your state of mind. Yeah. So if you want to change your state of mind, however you're feeling in every given moment, you can't think your way out of a problem. You can't think your way out of what you perceive to be negative situations. But what you can do is you can move your body. So the body moves first, and then your state changes and your mind changes. So that's a little bit of wisdom from Tony Robbins, by the way. So because he's always encouraging people to change and transform their lives, but people get it back to front. They think that they have to start with something that they're thinking about to change there, and then take some actions later, where you have to actually take some action now to change your mind and to move and transform. So thanks, Tony, for that wisdom. I already knew it anyway, but it's always nice to hear it again, It's always nice to hear it again.
Yes, I think so. Just thinking because in some points maybe you can feel in different situations, as you said, the movement, how as an answer in some circumstances that you can control, that you can change. But if you are moving not only to be in a restricted way to like make exercise or do some sport with discipline and all this like not connected way, just like automatically and how do you say exigente, like because you are doing more for obligation, because you decide to change something, because I didn't do exercise before, and now I'm going to change this because I want to, but I can do it. Don't connecting in my experience. That's what is happening. I connect with the sports more about this obligation to as a performance, like to go to the gym in my schedule, in my days, to have a specific way to move my body, but not with the purpose to feel my body, to be present with my body, to feel the weight when I am doing exercise, when I am stretching, when I am doing yoga, like this different way to feel, in my perspective, to feel my body, to feel my mind, my presence, my energy, because I could be I remember when I was some days in the gym, I was training, but I was thinking in the work things, what I'm going to do when I leave, when I finish, and this different way to connect with the sport as a performance for me in my life. That's why the name of the title of this episode. More than a performance, how now in my present, it's about, for me, it's about movement, it's about to feel my body and to be connected with my breath, with my mind, with my energy, focus, present, as you says, you know, like, and that's why it's incredible for me to know you, because it's a beta, no beta, an alpha version of how do you can live with the sports in this movement with connection. That is the perspective that I received when I met you, and many other things that I connect now with my present, with the sports, in a way, in a consciousness way, you know, and
yeah, I mean, anybody can do anything. I see it every day here in Mexico. There's always people sweeping. They're always sweeping. Maybe they're outside the business, they're sweeping. And somebody might just say, oh, well, they're just cleaning. But for me, sweeping has always been a beautiful sort of meditative process. And any sort of, it doesn't have to be necessarily a sport activity,
okay, yeah,
or anything at all. I think the most important thing is that when you're doing something, you're fully there, fully present, doing it. You know, and that's the real benefit of being aware of and just being calm and peaceful and involved with what you're doing. You know, you could be sweeping, or you could be lifting weights at the gym, or you could be swimming, or you could be riding a bicycle. You mentioned meditation a little while ago, and yes, because I told you, I even taught a workshop once. It was called Cycling and Moving Meditation, and that just sort of that I wasn't completely aware of that sort of experience. I guess I was having it all the time, but I didn't put a label to it. I didn't call it meditation. But then I realized that it is a meditative practice. But going for a run or hiking in the mountains or anything, sweeping, is still a meditative process. And these are all, you know, extremely beneficial and transformative for people. They're very simple, calming experiences, things that you can do with friends. I think there's been some empirical studies with athletes, with I seem to remember some information from Ken Wilber. I think I mentioned Ken Wilber to you.
yes,
From the Integral Institute, and he's a meta researcher, so he knows a lot of stuff about a lot of things, and he's always quoting other people's studies, because he doesn't just talk about specific ideas. he wants to present evidence or other evidence of what's really going on in our lives as human beings. And this part of it was to do with, I think it was to do with long distance running. Athletes who were doing, they were training long distance running, and they were gaining these specific sort of brain states that can be tested on with people who are sitting in formal meditation. And the interesting thing about meditation, I've done a lot of, I don't really have, my meditation is my bicycle. So, but I have done formal meditation practice before. And everybody has a different way, everything works differently for different people. So these long distance runners were creating the same sort of brain states that they tested on these people that have been meditating for 10 years. And so the benefits, by the way, if you do anything for 5 years, you will, if you stick to it, you will master. There'll be a certain mastery that you achieve over those 5 years. And so the studies have been made and to prove that very extreme physical activity like ultra distance running, for example, has both very amazing meditative qualities to it, as well as, of course, the physical sort of attributes that come from that sort of activity. But guess what I'm saying is that anything can be a meditative practice, so just choose what's good for you. Anything, whatever works for you, it's fine. It could be sweeping, it could be riding a bicycle, it could be sitting in formal meditation. And as far as transformation is concerned, the other interesting information that came out of these studies was that the people who had done those 5 years of mastery in whatever they were doing attained a certain amount of internal transformative qualities that turned into that made them calmer, more peaceful, happier, more open, and more sense of freedom. All of these things. I mean, freedom it means a lot of things to a lot of people, and I don't think there's any one particular kind of way to describe what freedom is.
Yeah.
But for me, I was encouraging people. I used to organize events for many years when I stopped competition, and one of my events was called the Freedom Mountain Bike Marathon, and also the Freedom Trail Run. And I called it that because I wanted to. I just wanted people to start thinking about, if they wanted to think about it, what freedom meant to them. Yes, and so. Thousands of people came to that event over the years, and I really don't know whether they spent a lot of time thinking about freedom, but they certainly enjoyed the event, and they certainly had some beautiful experiences because I observed those things.
This kind of freedom to be, right? Like they was enjoying. Maybe you can ask for each of them if they are connecting with the purpose of the name of the project, but you can see that they was living, and this could be like a translation to, or like a meaning or whatever, to freedom in this kind of way. I understand, right?
Yeah, well, maybe it was just me subliminally programming, who knows?
Yeah.
But, they were like, oh, let's go and do the freedom, And so I think it's important. I mean, it's certainly, we don't have to get political today, but I was ahead of the curve because I ran the Freedom Mountain Bike Marathon and the Freedom Trail Run for 10 years. And so it started a long time ago. So I was encouraging people to at least get a sense or ask questions about what freedom meant to them. Yeah. Everybody's different, and that's the beautiful thing, And part of this episode, you were talking about performance.
Yes.
I never really sort of considered what I did when I was racing bicycles to be performance. For a long time I didn't. And then I realized that, a specific type of cycling event that was very popular in the 90s in the US was called the Criterium. And that's basically they would shut a less than kilometer block of city, a rectangle or sometimes an L-shaped course. The L-shaped courses were the most fun. They turned out to be the fastest for some reason. But so we would go round and round and round, maybe 100 times or longer, around and round and round. And so we would come around, and often there would be thousands and thousands and thousands of people watching. And we were coming around every 40 seconds or every minute or so. And I realized after doing hundreds and hundreds of these, and it was challenging, by the way, to stay focused doing so many of these type of events because there was just a lot of them. And I think, when you get tired, you lose your focus naturally. But I realized after some time that I was a performance artist. Not like a, when we think of performance artists, or when I think of a performance artist, I think of, maybe a ballet dancer or some sort of a musician or some sort of expressive movement. And I realized that it was still performance. Because there was, to perform, you generally perform for someone mm-hmm. or a crowd. Mm-hmm. And so we were at least performing for the people who are watching for an hour or sometimes 2 hours. And that was a revelation for me to understand that was what I was doing all those years, and I didn't realize it. It's just a different way of performance.
Yes, thank you, Anthony, and thank you to be clear about this word, because for me the intention to say performance more than a performance is more focus, or according to this, as you says, like how I prepare to show something to someone else, and how I do exercise. For example, in my case, that's why the title of the name. For me, as a performance, it was more how I prepare to have the body, or to have the conversations, or to to be with some more people, to connect, and more than just connect first with me. How I prepare something to someone else, like in this performance, to go to the gym, to see me physically different, to attractive, and all these things, and how I can connect with sports more in this movement, more than a mask, more than something to prepare to someone else. How to connect with myself, with the movement, with connection. How more than an export, more than just move the legs or move the arms and move the neck or whatever part of the work, more than the specific exercise, how the movement connect me with myself, and it's not just a performance to something that I use to show something to someone else, you know? And I think so this is part of my story. That's why I connect with this word, science, this perspective, because I think so also that maybe in Mexico, you as a foreign, maybe you can see it a lot, but me as a Mexican, I identify that exist many different ways to connect more than for a performance, just to I don't know how do you say this word in English, I don't remember, like to pretend to be with some people, to something, more than to really develop yourself, you know? That and you can find many yoga studios, many gyms, many some places when you can train, and the main focus purpose is look good, that people look the body that you want to have, and all this bullshit regarding more to perspective, to build a performance, to identify yourself in the world, most than identify yourself with your movements, with your body, with your connection. That's the intention, or that's the perspective what I'm talking about, specifically about performance. And it's really nice for me. It's really nice for me to learn, to connect, to hear that, for example, for you, it's most about a performance to be prepared for, to share something, to connect with someone else, more than just to decide who you want to be, because this is like the option things that you can choose, you know?
I think firstly, everybody likes to look good.
Yeah.
Everybody likes to look good. Everybody deserves to look good, and all of that. I think the what I'm hearing from what you're saying is that I understand how the sports industry works in relation to appealing to people's vanity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And there's always going to be a certain amount of that in everybody. But for me, the difference is how much focus you invest, yes, in that vanity, or how much focus you invest in just being calm, being present with every physical action, whether it's in the gym, whether it's lifting weights, movement, dance, all of it. So it's really about investment, personal investment and intention. And so everybody likes to look good. I like to look good. You like to look good. Everybody likes to look good. And that's great.
Yes.
But it's having the awareness to realize that that's not who you are specifically, all of you. Okay?
Yes.
And so the beautiful thing about my journey, my experience with cycling is that is coming back to what I said in the beginning, is learning humility, because you would fail, you would not win. The object of the race was for you to win. Yes? And only one person can win out of 100 or 150. So the people that failed are not failures. There's a difference between failing and thinking you're a failure. Yes?
Exactly, yeah.
And so when you failed, you had a choice to either become a humble person, accept that failure and move on, yes, to the next moment, or just be tormented by that particular failure until you probably would give up doing what you're doing. So it's a beautiful experience because it gives you the opportunity to, through competition, to not be so focused on vanity, to not be so focused on performance for other people, but to be focused on a transformation, a moment, and a celebration as well.
Yeah, well, yes.
Celebration.
Your development at the end, right? Your process, growing and learning, and
it still is. It still is. I mean, every time yesterday I rode my bicycle for 6 hours. The day before I rode my bicycle for 8 hours. And it's a beautiful thing. There's focus, there's joy, there's discomfort, there's pain, there's just life experience unfolded. And you know, for me, I just like moving through the air. And someone asked me the other day, they said, "Oh, why don't you get a motorcycle?" I said, "That's just too fast. That's too fast," because the difference between walking and cycling and a motorcycle is that cycling's just right, you know? You're just going just the right speed to experience and see all the beauty, all the ugliness, everything, and to experience that.
Such amazing conversation, such amazing.
Yeah, it always is with you. So.
Yeah. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Anthony, again, because at the end, you are sharing us too. You are sharing me also about your present. How do you live this trip in Mexico? How do you live these 6 hours yesterday rolling and at the end, this is part of who is Anthony, right?
I can tell you 2 quick things before we finish here.
Yes, of course, please.
So yesterday there was a lot of traffic, as they always is in Mexico, but it was pretty busy. So it wasn't extremely enjoyable as far as the cycling experience was. But there's always moments, you know. There's always the dusty, ugly little towns, or there's always, what's beautiful about Mexico is that within a split second there can be something beautiful. I stopped into to buy some yogurt and some snacks to eat in an OXXO. You know, they're everywhere in Mexico. They're with the gas stations and something. So I stopped into the OXXO, and it was a little busy, but it wasn't too busy. And I picked my things I wanted to buy. And this does happen to me sometimes. That it hasn't happened to me for a while. Oh, by the way, the last 2 days I've had a lot of dogs chasing me and barking at me. So that's kind of new, because that didn't happen before I left Mexico City. But anyway, so I'm in this OXXO, and there's a gentleman in front of me who's buying something, and I look and see this dog who walks in the door of the OXXO, and it sees me. It's a shaggy dog, and she comes in and she looks up at me, and I tell her that I don't have any food for her. And she stands in front of me, and then she flips over in front of me on the floor and wants me to rub her belly.
I don't want a food. I want you to touch me.
Yeah, so I gave her a scratch with my shoe. And I made sure that the man in front of me knew that she was there, so he wouldn't turn around and step on her. And she's just lying there on the floor of the OXXO. And she didn't move. She's just beautiful. And one of the women in the OXXO says, "Oh," I said, "Espero," and she said, "Oh, it's gordita."
Gordita.
So that was a beautiful moment. The other moment was that I was stopped at a traffic light somewhere. It was a very, very busy intersection, and there were some trucks that had stopped. And yesterday, lots of my bags were slipping from my carrier on my bike, so I had to stop and rearrange them and do the straps up again. So I was doing this. I decided to put my bike up against this truck wheel that had stopped. And it's a dusty, sandy, dirt road intersection. And at one point, there were all of these people on bicycles coming across the road. And I looked up to see this woman on a bicycle, and she had a young boy in front. Maybe he was sitting on a seat in front of her. And then behind her were two, I think they were twins, identical young girls, maybe they were 3 years old or something, dressed identically. And for me, that was just a moment of joy and beauty to see this. So there's a couple of stories from yesterday.
Thank you so much, Anthony. I connect with I remember something similar that I presence in some travel in Europe, when I saw a family in a bicycle, but it was a bicycle like with 4 steps, and I think so they are from England, because they looks like totally England's, with some gabardinas, beautiful coats, and it was the family, the father, the mom, and 2 girls, and they looks really like a postal, you know, and I connect with that moment in that place, with that imagine, and I remember it with this bicycle experience that you see yesterday, that you lived yesterday, that you present yesterday, that you at the end take the time to look, not only with the eyes, because you are looking around in the traffic and all these things. This different way to look the real world, you know. I think so. It's different way to look. Thank you so much, Anthony.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you so much for this episodio. It's great, and I am going to turn back again the laptop, because it's great to me to share this moment with Anthony, to share this podcast, this episode with this information. I know that we can continue talking for many hours.
But no one will be listening.
But no one is going to listen it, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because at the end it's something registered for myself. Share it with yourself, and thank you so much.
Yes.
I really appreciate it. This is really important for me, and thank you so much.
Thank you for the invitation.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure, Anthony.
It's nice to chat with you again.
Yes, it's amazing. I hope we are going to continue talking after we stop to recording. Thank you so much. This is the episodio number 8. We are here sharing this beautiful guest, and thank you so much. See you for the next time. We're going to continue talking. Sorry, and you're not going to listen the rest of the conversation, but you can listen the rest of the episodes in the rest of the podcast. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure. Anthony, send you a beautiful kiss, a beautiful hand, and we continue talking. Just I'm going to stop the recording. So say goodbye, Anthony.
Adios.
Adios. Say something else in Spanish, Anthony. Tell us something in Spanish. Something that you want to share in Spanish for us.
If I had a rock band, I'd call it Entonces.
Perfecto. Muchas gracias, Anthony. See you. Chao, hasta la próxima. Gracias. Bonita vida. Hasta luego.